Nine Group, Mr. Vikram K, the Senior Director at HPE India, Mr. Rajesh Gopal, the CIO at Maruti Suzuki, and Mr. Rajendran N, the CEO at Iptas. And of course, my sincerest gratitude to each and everyone present here for this 22nd annual conference held by Gurukul, the CIO and Leadership Conference. And once again, thank you for having me over for this conference. And I'm sure you will have a great time in terms of learning and enriching your experience in your own spaces over the next 2 days. Indeed, as Mr. Giridhar mentioned, last year has been a very turbulent year. It's not been an easy year for most people on different fronts. It's for the very first time in the history of the world that we're being told, please stay away from positive people. Have you ever heard that before? We were always told stay away from negative people. But today, we are being told stay away from positive people, and otherwise you get corona positive. For the very first time, one of my friends comes and tells me, for the very first time in the history of the world, he said, my hands, or rather men's hands, or people's hands, have ended up consuming more alcohol than their livers did in their entire lifetime. So much sanitizer has gone on our hands. So yes, indeed, there have been a lot of challenges, and it has also affected the mental well-being of a lot of people. There have been personal challenges, social challenges, professional challenges. You can look at kids in schools and universities having to study their courses online. Work obviously practically has changed for everybody. The work from home culture has become extremely prominent, being the new normal. There have been personal challenges that people have faced, financial challenges that people have faced. Just a integral part of life. But in the last year, it's probably gone to the next level. In fact, during the lockdown, one psychiatrist even put a board outside his door. He said, if you during the lockdown are speaking to the walls, don't come to us. That's absolutely normal. Only if the walls start speaking back to you, then come to us. Good Lord. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this year has been a tough year for all of us, and it has brought, like I said, challenges that we've never seen before. लेकिन मैं कई बार हिंदी में कहता हूँ, जिंदगी है ना जनाब, तकलीफ तो होगी, वरना मरने के बाद तो जलने का भी एहसास नहीं होता. When we are talking about life, there will be challenges. How many of you guys fly? I know all of you are raising your hand up there. I don't mean flying like birds. I mean flying on a plane. And every single time we fly, we all are well aware that the takeoff of the flight is entirely out of our control. Can we do anything about the takeoff at all? I remember I was flying from Moscow, Russia, to Kiev, Ukraine, and I was flying on Aeroflot Airlines. What an airline, I must tell you. Tough competition to Air India, you know. As I boarded the flight, the stewardess comes up to me and says, welcome on board, sir. We guarantee takeoff. I said, landing, madam? She said, well, you're a monk, right? Pray. Yes, the takeoff of the flight is not in our control. And what about the landing? The landing of the flight is not in our control as well. Like I always say, the three biggest fears back in the day were number one, fear of death, number two, fear of public speaking, and number three, fear of flying. I guess that's why they call an airport a terminal. Everybody's so fearful of flying. But now those three fears have been replaced in the digital era. Number one is the fear of your phone battery dying off. Number two is the fear of a very poor Wi-Fi signal when you're attending a Zoom session. And number three is the fear of the Sudarshan Chakra, still buffering when you're watching a Netflix show. Now, jokes apart, The takeoff of the flight and the landing of the flight are entirely beyond our control. And what to speak of the turbulence? Between the takeoff and the landing, there's a lot of turbulence. And that turbulence is not in our control as well. We can do nothing about the takeoff, we can do nothing about the landing, and we can absolutely do nothing about the turbulence that comes during the journey. Now, guess what? There's one thing that we do have in our control. Although these three things about the travel, about the journey are absolutely beyond us, there's one thing that is completely and entirely, totally within our control. And that is what we choose to do between takeoff and landing. Nobody can control, not the stewards, not the stewardesses, not the pilots, not the co-pilot. Nobody can control what we choose between takeoff and landing. Some people choose to eat a lot. Some people read. Some people binge watch movies on a long international flight. Some people chat to the fellow passenger and network. And Indian men, they have a philosophy. When they travel internationally, Indian men का एक philosophy है. वो बोलते हैं टिकट का पैसा भरा है ना, बूंद बूंद खाली करके उतरूंगा मैं. Get tipsy by the time they get down the plane, they come off the plane. So indeed, what we do on board the flight, the choices we make, is completely within our control. I feel the journey of life is exactly like that flight. The takeoff of the journey of our life, represented by our birth, is not in our control. We didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose the socioeconomic class we were born in. We didn't choose the community, the religion we were born in. We didn't choose the country we were born in. We didn't choose our looks. Nobody looks as good as their Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp display picture. And nobody looks as ugly as their Aadhaar card picture. We didn't choose our looks. We didn't choose any of this. The takeoff was entirely beyond our control. And the landing of the plane, represented by death, is not in our control as well. Very often I say, if you are born poor, not our fault, not in our control. If you die poor, guys, you've not made the right choices. If you're born unknown to anybody, not your fault. If you die not known to the world, well, you probably did not make the right choice. If you were born crying, not your fault. If you die crying, probably your fault. You could have lived better and made better choices. But two important parameters of the journey of our life, birth and death, are not in our control. And between this birth and death, between the takeoff and the landing, there is a lot of turbulence that comes. Last year, the turbulence was created by the corona pandemic. And like we mentioned earlier, we were all affected in different ways, on different levels, in different scales, but we were all affected by what this virus did to all of us globally. And therefore, although the takeoff, the landing, and the turbulence in life is not within our control, what we choose to do during this journey is what actually defines our growth. The biggest asset that any human being actually possesses is his or her free will, his or her ability to choose. It's not so much about what happens to us. It's about what we do with what happens to us. It's not about the situation, the circumstances around us. It's about what we tell ourselves internally. It's our self-talk, it's our affirmations, it's our determination, it's our attitude, it's our mindset, it's our consciousness, it's our convictions inside that decide whether we will think or will say. And therefore, similar situations, similar challenges, similar difficulties, similar trying circumstances and tribulations come to everybody. Why is it that some thrive? And why is it that some sink? It's very important and crucial, therefore, for all of us to learn how to manage challenges. Today, they're professional or created because of the pandemic. But there could be personal challenges, there could be emotional and relationship challenges, there could be mental health challenges, there are financial challenges. The art of living a great life is the art of managing our challenges and troubles well and growing out of those adversities and shining forth in a way that not only do we make a difference to our own lives, but we can make a difference and an impact in the world that we live in. So here are a couple of thoughts I had in my mind when I wanted to talk to you about how to deal with challenge. Now, how many of you guys were really, really great at mathematics when you were in school? Well, I can't see your hands, but I know a couple of you are raising your hands out there. And how many of you like terribly bad at math when you were in school? I know some of you are raising your hands out there. And how many of you didn't care a damn about mathematics, just pass ho jao and get rid of it? Most people raise their hands when I ask that question. Now, I studied engineering, and because I studied engineering, I love to put everything in the form of equations, including life. And although life can be put in multiple forms of equations, I want to present to all of you one way of looking at life this morning. A teacher once came to a classroom and said to the kids, all about 7-year-old kids, a ship is sinking, a frog is croaking, and potatoes are 20 rupees a kilo. Guess what my age is? Kids were like, what? Can you come back again, ma'am? He said, simple. A ship is sinking, a frog is croaking, and potatoes are 20 rupees for a kilo. Guess what my age is? One student raised his hand and said, 32, madam. She said, yes, bang on, spot on. That's exactly correct. I am 32 years old. How did you get that answer correct? The boy said, well, it's very simple, ma'am. My sister is 16 years old and she's half mad. How else would you explain that you're 32 full mad? Because at the end of the day, who asks such an unconnected question in mathematics? The mathematics of life gives us a very crucial and connected, integrated equation. Life is equal to constants plus variables. The two components of the equation of life are number one is the constants and number two is the variables. We all know in mathematical equations we had constants like pi. Pi is equal to 3.1418 and it goes on. Right? That pi, the value of which is 3.1418, was a constant, accepted constants in mathematics. When I studied engineering, there was a Hubble's constant as well, the multiple constants like these. And these constants cannot be changed. They are completely beyond the scope of our control. They're completely beyond the scope of our ability to redefine or change. And similarly, in the equation of life as well, there are those things that are completely beyond our ability to control and change. For example, we can all look at changing our height. Can we change our weight? I'm sorry, I said it the other way around. We can all look at changing our weight. Can we look at changing our height? Our height is a constant. Our weight is a variable. Can we change the way people think about us? We can behave as good as is possibly as good as is possible for us as human beings. But can we actually change the way people think about us? Not sure. Constant. Can we think differently and can we change our thinking? Yes. A variable. Ladies and gentlemen, there are going to be constants in our life which are completely beyond the scope of our control, beyond the scope of our abilities to change. What the corona pandemic has done globally, not sure if we can change what it has done to businesses, to individuals, to mental wellness, to relationships, to social life. What it has done may be completely beyond the scope of our redefining, but how we respond to it, how we react to it, how we deal with it is not a constant. What happens is a constant. How we respond is not a constant. How we respond is a variable. It is that response, it is that reaction is what actually defines how we grow. It is that response that actually defines how we escalate, enhance, improvise the quality of whatever we do. And therefore, to try to change that which is beyond our control, to try to change that which is completely beyond our purview, is like hitting our head against a wall. The wall doesn't move. कितना भी सर आप जाके दीवार पर पटकिए, दीवार कभी हिलती नहीं है. Hitting your head against the wall doesn't move the wall. You hurt your head when you hit your head against the wall. A lot of people go through a lot of anxiety, stress, and panic in trying and challenging circumstances because they're hitting their head against something that they cannot change or defy. Mental anxiety, worry, panic, stress springs from the fact that a good 85 to 90% people are trying to change those things that they cannot, including the nature of the people in their teams, or their spouses, or their children, or their friends, or their colleagues, or their bosses. There are things that are constant and they cannot be changed. And the more we try to change them, rather than moving the wall, by hitting our head against the wall, we hit ourselves and we hurt ourselves. Unless someone is a compulsive alcoholic, of course. I remember once a guy came up to me and said, Swamiji, what is more powerful? 10 liters of milk or 200 ml of Russian vodka? What a question. He's asking a Swamiji. I, being a teetotaler and a Swamiji, I said, of course, 10 liters of milk is way more powerful than 200 milliliters of vodka. He said, wrong, Swamiji. So what do you mean wrong? He said, I'll ask you a question. If you drink 10 liters of milk, you go kick the wall, you go hit the wall, you go bang your head against the wall, will the wall move? I said, no. He said, just take 200 ml of unadulterated, unmixed vodka. You don't have to hit, you don't have to bang, you don't have to kick. The wall will automatically start moving. Now, jokes apart, the fact of the matter is this. Every time we try to hit our head against those things that are beyond our control, we are hurting ourselves because those things just don't change. So with our constants, guys, what we need to do? We need to do three things. Number one, in the equation of your life, identify your constants. Because the quicker you're able to come to terms with what are those things that are beyond your scope of change, that's how quickly you can start working on those things that you can change. And a lot of times people can't tell the difference. It needs a lot of maturity, wisdom, experience, and worldly wiseness to be able to tell the difference. After a long time, people start saying, oh, I wish I shouldn't have wasted my time on that. I wish I shouldn't have wasted my time on that strategy. That strategy went wrong. There was other things we could have done. And only later we realize that was the constant. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing we need to do with our constants is identify them quickly. The quicker you're able to identify your constants, you're able to give your attention and time to your variables. Number two, it's not just identification. The second thing that we need to do with our constants in the equation of our challenges is accept them. A lot of times we keep spending a lot of mental energy fighting them back. The quicker we accept them, the greater mental space and energy we have to fight back the real challenges. Reserve your energy, reserve your time, reserve your mental space, reserve your resources, reserve your teams for the real, to fight back the real, not to fight back the imaginary, not to fight back things that are beyond our control, not to fight back the bloody politics that goes on all over the place. We should spare and reserve our energies to fight back the real aspect of our challenges. So identify your challenges quickly. Accept them so you know that your resources and energy is reserved for things that are of value. And number three, do not hover over those things. The more you mentally hover over things that are beyond your control, that's what causes a lot of stress and anxiety and panic. Like this phone. It's probably about 200 grams, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, this is just 200 grams. Very light, very light, nothing big. But if I were to hold this phone throughout the session until 11:30 this morning, like this 200 grams phone, although it's so light, will start making my hand feel numb. What if I were to hold this for the entire day? My wrist will start hurting. What if I were to hold this for the entire week? My wrist will practically start getting paralyzed. It's just 200 grams. It's not so much about the weight of the phone. It's for how long you're holding it on your palm. So it's not so much about the issues that are small or big. It's how long you're carrying it in your mind by hovering over those issues. Challenges are externally there, but when you bring them inside is when they start affecting you terribly, guys. And therefore, remember one thing. When you're dealing with this constants, do take stock of these three questions. Have you identified them? Number two, are you braced enough to accept them and reserve your energy for those things that have value? And number three, are you constantly hovering over them in your mind? Like this phone. Learn how to keep them out because they are beyond your control. And therefore, in that equation of the challenge of life, number one is the constant. But the second aspect of the equation is the variables. And guess what? It's those variables that define us. It's how we choose to work on those variables that actually help us grow. It's how we choose to work on those variables that brings us out of the mess that life creates for us. And life creates a hell of a lot of mess, whether it's to the corona pandemic today or some other challenge today. Challenges are not new. How many of you have problems in life? I know all of you are raising your hands. Is there anybody who doesn't have problems? If somebody is raising their hand, they're blatant liars, And people keep coming to me and asking me, Swamiji, how do we handle our problems in life? Can you give us some solutions? I tell them, pick up your phones, pick up your smartphones, go to your wallpaper settings and change your wallpaper settings to that of your spouse's picture. Your home screen and your lock screen both should be the picture of your spouse. And when you have a serious problem in your life, look at it like this and tell yourself, if I can handle this, I can handle any bloody thing in my life. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Just a joke to make our things a little lighter. But what life is about working on the variables. There's going to be an aspect of the challenge that's a constant, and there's going to be an aspect of a challenge that is a variable. To be able to identify what is it that I can work on and work on it is the most powerful catalyst for coming out of what we are going through and grow in magnitudes that we could never, ever have imagined. And when I talk about variables, I talk about number one, being patient and hopeful. Things don't change overnight. Like I remember a very popular song back in the day which said, Gam ki andheri raat mein dil ko na bekarar kar. गम की अंधेरी रात में दिल को न बेकरार कर, सुबह जरूर आएगी, सुबह का इंतजार. The dark night never remains a dark night. Situations change, circumstances change. Nothing in this world is a permanent thing. No challenge is permanent. No problem is permanent. No situation is permanent. No circumstance is permanent. No trouble is permanent. No difficulty is permanent. None of these things are permanent. They change. Just the nature of the world. And therefore, सुबह जरूर आएगी, सुबह का इंतजार कर. Things will change. The sun will rise. But you know what? When we're talking about the sun's rising, the sun doesn't rise by our timing. No matter how much we yell and scream, and no matter how much we bang our heads, the sun doesn't come up because we want it to come. The sun comes by its own time. Situations, circumstances change in their own time. And what we need is patience and hope to keep going. Knowing well that we are doing the right things as we wait. Patience is not just about waiting. Patience is about doing the right things as we wait. Patience is about investing in the right processes as we wait. Patience is about investing in the right skill set, in the right talent, in the right processes as we wait. Steve Jobs was chucked out of the company that he himself founded, thrown out. For 10 full years, he was out. And all he had to do was wait, patiently wait. But he didn't just wait. He did the right things as he waited for things to change. If the markets have to change, if businesses have to change, if the pandemic scene has to change, it's going to change in its own time. But as we wait for things to change, it's absolutely crucial for us to work on this variable. And the variable is the right kind of investments. Investing in ourselves, investing in our processes, investing in the market, investing in our technology, investing in innovation, investing in research is extremely crucial for us to grow when things do change. Steve Jobs invested in his relationship. He got married that year, in that decade. Steve Jobs invested in himself. He came to India, worked with Paramahamsa Yogananda to build his spiritual forte internally. It was in those years that he invested in his technology, formed Next Animation, formed Pixar. And Apple Incorporation had bloody no choice but to call him back again. Because patience is not just about waiting. Patience is about the right kind of investment in the right kind of process whilst we are waiting. And sure enough, Steve Jobs was brought back to Apple Incorporation in all his glory, with all his power, with all his expertise back again. When it does not rain in many states of the country, the farmers may think that what's the point in tilling the soil? What's the point in cultivating the land? The rain is a constant. It's not in my hands. But tilling the soil is a variable. Every single year, if I keep tilling the soil, if I keep sowing the right seed, if I keep investing in the right process, whenever it rains, I'm future ready. I'm ready for cultivating a great harvest, a great crop, because I have invested. Whenever it rains. So don't be dejected. Don't give up that firm grit and determination that yes, things may seem bleak. Things may seem a little bit despondent and depressing because the way things are going on. It doesn't matter. That's a constant for us. How we invest in our processes, with change, with innovation, with the right kind of mindset, with the right kind of adaptation to the new technologies that are needed in this era of change, in the new normal, is what will really bring us back and help us bounce back with all that glory. That's real good leadership. The 7 words that are the biggest enemies of growth are these words. We have always done it this way. We've always done it this way. And nobody cares that we've always done it this way. Rigidity of leaders in all organizations have killed the growth of those organizations. for the simple reason that they're completely attached to their opinions, their perspectives, their ways of doing things. But things don't wait. Markets don't wait. Pandemics don't wait. And therefore, flexibility, adaptability is a variable. We have to avoid these 7 words. We have always done it this way. And when we avoid them, my last principle in the last 1 or 2 minutes to share with all of you is this. Having said all of this, remember one thing. It's people, our people in our organization who are responsible for executing, fulfilling all our strategies, all our hopes, and all our dreams for growth in our own spaces. Good leaders are not leaders of projects. Good leaders are leaders of people who run those projects. And therefore, Richard Branson said a very good statement. I'm concluding with this one. He said, train your people so well that they're free to leave you. But treat your people so well that they do not want to leave you. Because it's those people who are committed, who are talented, who are dedicated, who help organizations grow. And when will they stay? They will only stay when they are treated well, not just paid well. In the world today, people can get paid very well in multiple organizations because opportunities are ample. What really retains people and retains best talent is the way we treat them and the way we give them quality experience. So yes, when we talk about challenge, there's a constant, there are variables. With the constants, identify, accept, and don't hover over those things. And with the variables, invest in the right kind of processes. In that waiting time, never give up the grit and the determination. And number 3, very important, is always invest in people and relationships, because how we treat people is commit to our dreams, aspiration, and vision. I wish to thank all of you very, very much for your kind attention. Thank you once again, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.